Why are people pleasers attracted to narcissists, and why are narcissists loving people pleasers? Hi, my name is Michele Paradise, and welcome back to my channel, where I offer you evidence-based information coupled with my own personal experiences to help you navigate the most challenging relationships in your life, especially the one with yourself. So today we're going to dive into a fascinating topic: when people pleasers are often attracted to narcissists, and why the reverse is also true. Understanding this dynamic can really help you recognize unhealthy patterns and build healthier relationships. And I really wish I had a video like this when I first started dating, because it would have saved me a lot of problems and trouble and time. So this really does describe me. A people pleaser often seeks approval from others. So the way they grow up is, remember, the three basic needs for a child is to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted just the way they are, not to be changed. And the people pleaser, for whatever reason, did not get this. Now, I in no way blame my parents, because this usually happens when parents are traumatized themselves, stressed out, overworked, and they are not attuned to the child in the way that the child needs attunement: to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged and validated. Big word there, important word, validated. So I retrospectively know that I was not seen, heard, and validated without blame or shame to my parents. And because of that, I adapted my personality to get my needs met. So what I've done is I went from self internally to others, and I wanted to get the validation of as many people as possible. Now, as a small child, of course, I didn't know this. I didn't plan this. I didn't get a piece of paper and pen and sit down and say, this is what I'm going to do. But this is what I did, because what happens to the child is the child realizes very quickly that if they are kind, nice, entertaining, funny, whatever it is, they will get the validation in return. They'll get the laughter. They'll get the, oh, you're so lovely. Oh, can I be your friend? Things like that. And they may have many, many friends in their lives. And this was my experience. I loved to make people laugh. Don't know if I'm funny, but I loved to make people laugh. And as a small child, I did. I would be very self-deprecating and make fun of myself before anyone else could get there, and they would laugh at it. Why not? It was funny. So what the people pleaser does is they are outward looking always. They're always looking for ways to get validation, ways to be seen, ways to be heard. Now, we talk about narcissists, which I'll get to in a minute, being manipulative. However, the people pleasing personality adaptation is also manipulative. It's just not so obvious, because what the person is doing is manipulating their world to get their needs met. It's usually not as toxic and as damaging and devaluing to other people, but it is still a form of manipulation. So I want you to just keep that at the back of your mind, because it does have some purposes that aren't always positive. And what happens, most importantly, what happens is that the child unknowingly abandons themselves every time they go outside of themselves to get their needs met. On the other hand, we have the narcissist. Now, I'm sure you've heard loads of things, seen lots of videos about what is a narcissist. I'm going to keep it really simple. They have an inflated sense of self-importance. They think that, and I always have my trusted little piece of paper here on my desk, they are the center of the universe, right? That's them in the middle. And we are all just there to serve them. So this is the inversion of a people pleaser. A people pleaser is the other way around. The people pleaser is outward facing, going to other, where narcissist is wanting everything to come to them. We are on their supply wheel. We supply them. They require constant admiration, and they lack empathy. Whereas the people pleaser will have loads of empathy, sometimes too much if that's possible. It kind of leaks out of them. They feel for everything in their stratosphere, everything in their universe. They just give so much away that they have none left for themselves. Coming back to the narcissist, they lack empathy, and they believe they are special and often take advantage of others to achieve their own goals. So this could be very grandiose personality. This could be never taking responsibility. And people often ask me, how do I know if I'm a narcissist? Well, the best way is, and sometimes this is hard to self-reflect, and maybe you can have this conversation with somebody else that you really trust. But in my opinion, and what I've seen and what I've researched and studied and experienced myself, a narcissist will always end up being the victim of any story. So, what I mean by that is, let's say you're in a situation with a narcissist and they have been, let's say, very unkind to you, or they've done something really awful to you, and you're discussing it with them. When you said that, I felt really angry. I felt really hurt. And I need to feel safe with you. The narcissist, instead of finishing that conversation, having a valuable, valid conversation with you about what really happened, they will turn it around. They will turn it back on you. They always have to be the victim of the story. And in that victimization, they take no responsibility. So they might say something to you like, well, that's your perspective, but that's not how it looks to me. What really happened is you did this and you said that and you made me feel. And I'm actually the one that is hurt. I'm actually the one that doesn't feel safe. So they completely flip it around. And within that, there will be things like initially love bombing. By the time we get to that point that I've just described, love bombing is pretty much over. We're into the devaluation stage where there's lots of gaslighting, triangulation. If some of these terms don't make sense to you, I have lots of videos on them. Darvo is another one. So I'll let you look at some of my other videos to understand what they mean. And what they do is they use people. They need to collect suppliers to feed them. And supply can look like sex, service, safety, various things like that, where they get something from you. So service doesn't even need to be within a romantic relationship. That could be in a platonic relationship where that could be a personal assistant. But sometimes in a romantic relationship, one of the partners can become like a personal assistant or can become like mother. They love safety. Safety means that you're not going to cheat on them, that you're monogamous, that you take your vows or your commitment very seriously. They don't. That's the difference. So, why are these two types of people drawn to each other? They're like magnets. They really are. And one of the metaphors I see, it's sort of like the narcissist has the bow and arrow, and the people pleaser has the target on their back. And they just see them. They absolutely see them. They can walk into a room and they can read that room. The narcissist can read it, and they can almost smell a people pleaser. They sense that there's a people pleaser by the way the person talks. So they're drawn to each other because of their psychological needs, their supply needs. People pleasers are driven by a need for approval and acceptance. We've said that. While narcissists crave admiration and validation. So I think you're beginning to see how this works. This creates a cycle where the people pleaser constantly gives and the narcissist constantly takes, really absorbing everything. So this is the perfect needs met. They fulfill each other's needs in a very dysfunctional way. And that's really key. Because you may think, well, they're fulfilling each other's needs, but they are both very wounded. So going back to childhood, how does a narcissist develop? We've discussed how people pleaser develops, like their needs aren't met, they adapt their personality to get their needs met elsewhere. It works, and they keep doing it. And they grow up around this small wounded child inside, and they do it in adult ways. Whereas the narcissist, there's usually two reasons. There's some reasons in between, but there's usually two paths to becoming narcissistic. The first one is the narcissist doesn't have their needs met either. And they get stuck in their development is arrested, basically. So the first 3 years of our life is when we're really fast tracking our development, learning how to walk, talk, do things for ourselves. We are individuating and separating from the parent figures. If the child doesn't feel secure, they can either become the people pleaser or they can become the narcissist. And the narcissist would be, give me, and I need it from all of you. I'm not getting it from my parent figures, so I need it from all of you. Give me, give me, give me. The other end of the spectrum is that the child is what is referred to as the golden child, in that the child is given everything. Their feet hardly touch the floor. They are told they are beautiful, handsome, wonderful, fabulous, the smartest person in the room, and they believe it. And they continue to go out into the world gathering that admiration. Okay? So, what you may begin to notice is this has a lot to do with attachment theory. Attachment theory is something that was developed by the psychologist Dr. John Bowlby in the UK. I think it was in the 1950s. And it's based on four types of attachment. The first one being secure. That's pretty obvious. You're securely attached. You don't adapt your personality to get your needs met in a dysfunctional way, which would be people pleasing or narcissism. So that's easy to understand. The next one is anxious ambivalent. So that's a push-pull kind of, I need, go away, I need, go away. And research shows that this is really one of the most common attachment styles for a narcissist, actually. It can also, interestingly, be for a people pleaser because they have a lot of insecurity, they have low self-worth, they always or frequently believe that they are not good enough and that everything is their fault. So they need to go out and get constant validation that they're okay. And they see themselves through the eyes of others, not through themselves. So that's secure and that's anxious ambivalent. The third one is avoidant. This is pretty straightforward. This is keeping everything and everybody at arm's length. So these people will get involved with someone else. They will get into a relationship, but they rarely commit. And if they do commit, it probably isn't a strong foundation that commitment is based on. It usually is, I've really not committed to you. I've just sort of said the words, but I'm also saying those same words to 5 other people. So there can be a lot of betrayal and, not being monogamous in a relationship, not actually committing. Now, the fourth one is disorganized. And disorganized is very interesting because it's a compilation of all of them, all of the attachment styles. But on top of it, there's fear. And the best metaphor I can give you is imagine a child in a playground, and on the bench, watching the child play in the sandpit is a parent figure. Parent figure's on their phone, reading a book, whatever. The child falls down and hurts their knee. Now, in a securely attached relationship, the parent figure would get off the bench, come over to the child, ensure that the child is safe and everything is okay, kiss the boo-boo, maybe put a Band-Aid on it, and go back and sit down. And the child feels seen, heard, and validated. In a disorganized attachment style, the parent figure may get up and come over, may not get up and come over, may just stay on the bench. When they do get up and come over, and even from the bench, they will come with anger and they will create fear in the child. So the person that's meant to be the child's hero is suddenly the enemy. So they may do things like, you stupid child, you always fall down. You're so clumsy. They might pull them up by their clothing. They may even smack them while the child is crying. So there is a fair percentage of people. I was one of those people because when I say was, you can heal and recover from your attachment style. It's not like an astrology sign where I'm a Taurus and I will always be a Taurus. No, I was in disorganized attachment. I've done a lot of work, have my own therapist, and I've chosen different types of people to be in relationship with, platonic and romantic. So I've really changed the dynamic of my attachment style. I don't fear everything in terms of relationships anymore. So I really want you to think about this. Are you securely attached? Are you anxious, avoidant, push-pull, in and out? I want you, I don't want you, I want you, I don't want you. Are you avoidant? Everything's at arm's length and you filter until you let somebody close to you. And ultimately, you never really let anybody get that close to you. And disorganized is all of them, not so much secure, obviously, but then there's fear. There's fear on top of all of those dysfunctional attachment styles. So I hope that makes sense. I actually have other videos on this if you want to check out my other YouTube videos on my channel. So as I've just talked about attachment styles, early childhood experiences play a significant role in shaping our personalities. We are not born with personalities, really. We're born with temperament traits So, for example, a temperament trait might be HSP, being a highly sensitive person, which I am also a highly sensitive person. And this is hardwired. There are very few personality traits that are hardwired. Therefore, they're not genetic, they're epigenetic. So that means they come from our environment, not from our genes. Now, some people may say, no, that's not true because you're just like your mother. So that must be genetic. No, that's actually called modeling of behavior. So if you're born into a family, you will model the behavior of the same-sex parent first, and then of the parents, and then of the siblings and any other significant family member for the first, let's say, 7 years of your life, which is when we're developing our personality. When we go to school and we maybe do sleepovers and play dates and things like that, we're exposed to other types of people and personalities. And sometimes those personalities really land with us. So I remember that I had a next door neighbor who I was just fascinated by. She was never married, and those days would be called a spinster, but she was certainly not a spinster. She was very glamorous. She traveled around the world. And that really affected me. And when I looked back at my life, I could see that I had really emulated her in a lot of ways. I wanted to travel. I wanted to leave when I was young and really become independent, and actually never wanted to marry. But sometimes those things change. So you see, all kinds of people can influence us. However, at the beginning, it really is our parent figures. And I say parent figures because we're not always raised by our biological parents. We can be raised by adopted parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, even older siblings can raise us sometimes. So sometimes parenting styles are overly critical or neglectful, and they can lead to the development of people pleasing. As I said earlier, the child isn't seen, heard, and validated, and also narcissistic. So what is really happening there is both children are similarly wounded, but they just take different directions based on what is available to them. And I've done videos on this where I say narcissism is not genetic, it's epigenetic, and I get a lot of pushback from that. But as I say this today, there is no gene that says a person is narcissistic. They do find when they do brain scans that the wiring of the brain is different between different people. So let's say a narcissist brain will have different parts of the brain will be activated, unlike a non-narcissistic person, but that doesn't make it genetic. Our brains get rewired because of trauma, and trauma can start in utero, in the womb. So a child can come out quite traumatized if the mother is downloading a lot of stress and anxiety because of her traumatic life or her difficult life. So it is not genetic. When we are wanting to earn our parents' love through good behavior, we may grow up as a people pleaser. And when we want to earn the love of our parents and good behavior doesn't work, then we may go in the other direction. And narcissists tend to act out a lot. They tend to, well, if you look at, there's been studies done on men in particular on death row. There's narcissistic personality style, and sometimes narcissistic personality disorder can be found. So it can lead people to violent, if they're malignant narcissists, and very difficult lives. What happens in relationships? So in relationships, these dynamics can lead to toxic patterns. The people pleaser may feel drained and unappreciated, while the narcissist may become increasingly demanding and controlling. This imbalance really can cause significant emotional distress for both parties. But I will say this, hand on heart, I really do think that the people pleaser comes out short in this situation. They come out much more damaged. And it is a fact that narcissistic abuse survivors or people that have been in narcissistic abusive relationships have, mental, physical issues to deal with afterwards. It really does take a toll on the mind and the body. So breaking the cycle, how do we do that? Breaking the cycle requires a lot of self-awareness and effort. People pleasers can start by setting healthy boundaries. And I know we hear this word a lot, but truly this is the work in people pleasing for sure, because people pleasers really struggle to say no. They struggle to say no in any way, even if it's not no. They struggle to let people down, and they start feeling very guilty. And guilt in a situation like this, all it is, not minimizing it, but all it is really is wanting to control the outcome of the other person's disappointment, which we can't do. So a lot of people pleasers will not even say no in any way, shape, or form because they cannot take the disappointment from the other person, and therefore they feel guilty. We really need to prioritize our own needs. And again, this is hard. Ask a people pleaser to put themselves even on their list of priorities, and then ask them to put themselves at the top of their list. It's almost impossible for them, but it's tiny, small baby steps. So if you're a people pleaser listening to this, I want you to think of one small step you can take after this video to begin to practice more awareness of self and putting self first. And I'm not going to pretend to know what that is for you, but there are many, many ways that you can do that. And the first thing you can do is start with boundaries. And if you find it difficult to create boundaries with others, then do what is the easiest, is start to create self boundaries. I'm going to spend more time doing this. I'm going to spend less time doing this. I'm going to not be as social for the next month. I'm going to spend more time with myself and find out what my needs really are. Things like that. I really want you to come within. You don't have to go outside of self with boundaries and say, worry about somebody inviting you out and saying, no, I don't want to go, or I can't do that. You can just say to self, I'm going to spend more time this month, this week, this day doing this for myself. And that's the best first way to go about it. Now, narcissists, they can benefit from therapy to develop empathy and self-awareness, but many times they can't. It's just a fact. Unfortunately, a lot of narcissists, when they do seek therapy, they go to learn how to be better narcissist. And what I mean by that is they learn how to appear to have more empathy, even though they don't. So in a relationship, both parties must work towards mutual respect and healthy communication for the relationship to thrive. However, if you can't do that and it is so toxic, please get out of the relationship. Your health and well-being is the most valuable asset in your life. Health is wealth. Mental health is wealth too. And I want you to get out at any cost, obviously as safely as you can. Connect with your friends and families, share with them what you're going through, ask them for help. And I know as a people pleaser, that can be very hard to do, but your life can depend on that. So understanding the dynamics between people pleasers and narcissists is crucial for building healthier relationships. And sometimes this relationship is not romantic. It can be with a boss, it can be with a colleague, it can be with a family member where you can't get away. So I really want you to stay awake and aware and reflect on your own relationships and consider whether these patterns are present in any of your relationships. Okay? So if you found this to be helpful, please hit the subscribe button. If this isn't for you, but you're sitting here going, I know who could really benefit from this, please share your thoughts. Please share it with someone else and share your thoughts in the comments. I have many videos on these topics. Please look at my other videos on my channel. And all that remains for me to say is thank you very much for following me today. And please stay safe. And I look forward to seeing you on my next video.